Hi. Um, okay, so a couple things. I'm sorry if the picture looks weird. I'm having to do videos different because the way I was doing them was making me have to turn off comments, and I like reading y'all's comments. So I'm going to try it this way for a little bit and see if this is okay, so y'all can comment if you want to comment. So I've got this book, and it's called Terrible But True, Awful Events in American History. I know, kind of dark, right? But it's interesting, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to pick a couple of things to read. Just to have something to read. I'm kind of trying to find something to read completely, a whole book. That would be fun to read. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to give them to me. Anyway, okay, so this is the one I'm going to read right now. A Bullet in His Chest, Teddy Roosevelt Keeps Talking. So this is the story about Teddy Roosevelt. It's pretty impressive. Teddy is one of my favorite American presidents, one of my favorite Americans, period. I just think he's really interesting. If you haven't read his bio, check it out. He's very inspiring, very, very, very interesting guy. So, here goes. After overcoming an asthmatic childhood, which was treated with cups of coffee and puffs of cigars, Teddy Roosevelt refused to let anything physically stop him. He responded to the deaths of his mother and first wife on the same day by becoming a rancher in the Wild West, keeping a badger and a bear as pets at the White House, was blinded in his left eye due to a boxing accident while president, and supposedly confronted a hired killer named E.G. Paddock in North Dakota with the words, "I understand you have threatened to kill me on sight. I've come over to see when you want to begin the killing." In 1899, he gave a speech titled The Strenuous Life, which summed up his life's philosophy, that the highest form of success comes not to the man who desires mere easy peace, but to the man who does not shrink from danger, from hardship, or from bitter toil, and who out of these wins the splendid ultimate triumph. Yet what probably cemented Roosevelt's reputation as our country's toughest president was a speech he gave in 1912. He was on the campaign trail for his third term in office for his self-created Bull Moose political party when his train stopped in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He got into his car and stood up in the back seat to acknowledge the cheering of the crowd. Just then, John Schrank, I think that's how you say that, a disgruntled saloon keeper, shot Roosevelt. The bullet, slowed by a copy of his speech and eyeglass case in his pocket, pierced his chest. The New York Times reported with astonishing courage, and despite the fact that he had no idea whether his wound was mortal or not, the colonel insisted on proceeding to the auditorium and going on with his speech. He said it might be his last chance to get his ideas before the people. "Friends," Roosevelt said as he began his speech, "I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I've just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose." He went on to speak for more than an hour. After the speech, he was rushed to the hospital where doctors found a bullet in his ribs that was too dangerous to remove. The Times stated his splendid physique enabled him to recover quickly from a wound that might have been fatal to an ordinary man. Pretty impressive. That was kind of short. Let me do one more. Let's do Black Sunday, a devastating dust storm, 179. We're actually talking about the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl right now in my 5th grade social studies class. So that would fit. When farmers cultivated the Great Plains in the 1910s and 1920s, their plows pulled up the deep-rooted grasses that kept the topsoil in place. Drought and high winds combined to put that soil into the air, causing what was known as the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. Beyond finding its way into every crack or crevice, the dirt was also dangerous. Cars driven through dust storms had to drag chains behind them to ground them in the static electricity. Those who breathed in the airborne particles could be struck with dust pneumonia, which killed hundreds. One of the worst dust storms in history took place on April 14, 1935. Hundreds of thousands of tons of soil clouded the air, creating a black blizzard that hit the country from the Dakotas to Texas. The Weather Bureau in Dodge City, Kansas reported the onrushing cloud, the darkness, and the thick, choking dirt made this storm one of terror and the worst while it lasted ever known here. Rising some 500 feet high and traveling at nearly 60 miles per hour, the churning walls of dirt generated massive amounts of static electricity, causing people to experience huge electric shocks and engines to stall. Pauline Winkler Gray, who saw the storm coming from her living room window in Kansas, described it as a mammoth waterfall of reverse. The apex, or highest part of the cloud, was plumed and curling, seething and tumbling over itself from north to south and whipping trash, paper, sticks, and cardboard cartons before it. As the wall of dust and sand struck our house, the sun was instantly blotted out completely. Gravel particles clattered against the windows and pounded down on the roof. The floor shook with the impact of the wind. We stood in our living room in pitch blackness. There's a little insert. The Dust Bowl Bandits, Bonnie and Clyde. With farmers unable to work the land, many lost their homes and farms to the banks that held the mortgages. This led to widespread resentment against the financial industry. Desperate times led to people romanticizing the bank robbers of the era. None captured the imagination more than young outlaws, Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker. While some thought they were Robin Hoods who stole from rich institutions, they actually tended to rob from small stores. They also committed as many as 13 murders. They were gunned down attempting to escape and ambushed by lawmen who fired more than 130 rounds into their stolen car, killing them both. Both of their bodies had so many holes in them they were difficult to embalm. The fluid kept running out. Okay, so tell me what you think. Do you want more of that? Would you like a book of something else? I'm trying to do historical fiction, so give me some ideas.